The last couple of years, Troy has been on the precipice of making the NCAA tournament, only to come up short. Has Skylar Meade figured out a way to get the Trojans back in the tournament? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, I really enjoyed thoroughly the conversation I had with Skylar Meade, the Troy Trojans head baseball coach. Could talk baseball with him for hours. He is a numbers guy. We talk about what Troy needs to improve on. Of course, there's always something you can get better at. The big thing that caught me was how specific he is and how they go about scheduling. It may surprise you a bit. We talk about the portal and NIL and who he can expect big years from. And was he fortunate enough to make an international recruiting trip? He is the head coach of the Troy Trojans. He is Skylar Meade, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We continue to preview the upcoming 2026 Sunbelt baseball season. We get the head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skylar Meade. Coach, you've had some really good seasons, having issues the last couple of years, getting Troy over the top. How do we do that in 2026?
Maybe be nicer to the 12 people in the committee. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I guess you just have to do more, you know. But look, I think, you know, we love that we're in the fight. Obviously, Southern Miss and Coastal have done a little bit more, you know, to be fair to Southern Miss. Southern Miss has been a bit of a bump in the road for us.
Right.
And that's no disrespect to Coastal, but we've won 6 of our last 7 against Coastal. So that's not been the impediment in both 24 and 25 for us. Southern Miss just has been able to get the better of us in some one-run games. We've had a multitude of them the last couple of years, and they've come out on the positive end. So now there's a lot of other games that go on, a lot of other factors that go into it, but that's certainly a part of it. But it's also a credit to what both those programs have done. And there's obviously many of other great programs, great coaches, great players in this league. But, you know, for us, we've continued to do our part in terms of what we do, not just in scheduling, but our efforts in scheduling. You know, you're always a prisoner slightly of, you know, your league stuff is your league stuff. Like you play the games, and some teams are better than expected, maybe numbers wise, some aren't. Like that's just the nature of it. And so, look, I just think for us, some of the things that we have done incredibly well, we have to continue to do. We've been very good in our bullpen pitching, in particular over our time, especially the last 3 years. We've been, you know, very good with our ability to score in a multitude of ways. You know, I think we're going to have a little bit more power production this year, which we feel good about our team doing. You know, I think that we need a little bit more duration through the course of a year from some of our starters. Hopefully that's something that we feel like we will do based on the clientele that we have. But in the end, you don't want to revolutionize everything totally and feel like you're not, you know, doing the right things. You take a program that's winning 39, 40 games a year. You don't want to totally, you know, get off the reservation and then find yourself in a different spot. But we obviously have to do more. And I think between what we've done scheduling and the things that I just mentioned, we'll be where we're supposed to be in the end. And, you know, hey, maybe luck will be on our side after battling some of the battles we have had over the 24 and 25 season when it came to the decisions made in some rooms late in May.
Well, baseball is one of the more flukier sports out there in terms of you can do everything right and still the outcome not turn out the way you wanted to, right? I mean, last year, Coastal Carolina gets to Omaha because they aligned into not one, but 2 double plays that very easily could have been base hits, right? You know, balls in front of the plate end up being out or being thrown into right field. So, you know, you make a good pitch and it doesn't go your way. How do you go about scheduling? Because there seems to be, are there 2 different ways to try and get some of those higher RPI teams to play? And at the same time, I think a couple of years ago, and it could just just be me. I didn't think the Cajuns had all that tough of a schedule, but Matt Degg set it up to where they needed to win 45 ball games to get in. They only had a 41 RPI, but they crushed everybody for the most part in the Sun Belt, and they ended up in the regional championship against A&M because they had a kind of a little bit of a soft schedule, but they set themselves up to win everything. How does Skylar Meade and Troy want to plan out their schedule?
If you posted our schedule up there today in the last couple of years, you'd say it seems like you guys are willing to go anywhere and everywhere. But okay. I will give you a very specific answer. Number one, and this is no reflection of anything historic. Troy's had a great program long before we came. So Troy has had pockets of really good throughout its history, back to its D2 time to, all the great coaches that came before. So, but one thing that I looked at and just I felt we had to do different. We can't play 34 home games anymore, right? We only play 26 this year. So we've made, listen, you're rewarded for going on the road. So you got to go on the road. Okay. Case in point, we opened on the road first time since I think maybe 2003 or 4. Mm-hmm. We opened on the road this year at Mercer, a top 75 RPI team. Okay. With our next game on Tuesday being in Mississippi State. So welcome to the season, right? But I think at its simplest level, what we've attempted to do is this. We go on the road 2 of the first 4 weeks in the non-con. Obviously, in conference, you're going to be 5-5, right? We have made a concerted effort to play some different opponents on the way to and the way from some long trips. What does that mean? We play Georgia on the way to the East Carolina LeClaire Classic. Georgia preseason anywhere from 2 to 5, it appears, in most polls. Take whatever you want. We play them not only on the way to the LeClaire Classic, we play them later on in the year returning from Marshall. So there's 2 games against an SEC team on the road. Obviously, great opportunities there.
Yeah.
We're now playing Mississippi State, which is under 4 hours away. We're going to play them every year. Obviously, last year, a game I think everyone followed, the premier game in college baseball in the 3rd week of the year and a midweek that we ended up winning 6-5. We'll play them. Vanderbilt, we've added to our schedule. We always play Alabama twice. Generally speaking, we play Auburn. That's not happening this year. So we added going to the LeClaire Classic, playing Western Carolina game 1, East Carolina game 2, obviously a home game for them, and then Rutgers. But, you're going to play still your Jacksonville State and potentially home and home. Samford, who's always got an outstanding program. You're going to play UAB usually twice. Alabama State, Jose, and then we try to play twice. We go to play at their place. That's something that, we used to be a neutral site. We go to their home now. So there's those little nuances of things
that's the thing.
Give you opportunities while also not necessarily revolutionizing everything that you could do. You change a neutral to a road, you add another road here, you sprinkle in an extra SEC opponent here. Our non-con the schedule was 14 last year, which obviously should have been enough. It wasn't, but I would actually go to 24. It's interesting. I mean, we were right there in 24, but our non-con ended up being 88. Now, I don't think, and obviously I'm the one that does it, so I got to handle the good and bad that comes with it. But we had a couple teams that it seemed like from their numbers the year before it was going to be a great metric, right? And then some of them just didn't have as good a years. You win the games, you're just not as rewarded. And that happens sometimes. It's unfortunate. But I think the reality of it is with a 64-team field, with the rewardance that we have to fair or foul, I get why the SEC gets rewarded. I get a lot of times why the ACC is rewarded. The Big 12 continues to have 8 teams in. Should they or should they not? Maybe people might not want to hear that, but they had 8 teams when Texas and Oklahoma were in. They had 8 teams last year. So I can do the math because it affects my life. But the reality is it's just a minimal amount of spots, and you have to be so elite. You have to be so great. And so we have to be better in those things in order to get that benefit of the doubt that inevitably it's minimalized spots, right? If UC Santa Barbara is great, if UC Irvine's great, if Coastal happen to not win the league and they don't get that bid, they've been outstanding. Louisiana has had their outstanding years, obviously under Coach Deggs. You just start going around. It's just, if Stetson, who's had good program, if they do a good job and they win 39 games, but they have some wins over potentially Florida State, whoever they play in these midweeks, and their metrics check out, like it's just a very small thing for, you have 307 teams in this country, but the reality is, the quote unquote, we don't look at ourselves as a mid-major. We're certainly not a mid-major league. You know it, as you cover this well better than anybody. It is not a mid-major league, but sometimes it gets the mid-major dole out where you only have so many spots, but it's a big country. And so when other teams have great years and their metrics are reflective, you just have to be incredibly elite.
Let's take a timeout. We'll come back and continue our conversation with the Troy Trojans head baseball coach, Skylar Meade. We talk midweek ball games and RPI. We'll do that right after I tell you about Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Let's give it up to the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. They've had a bad season, and yet they keep on playing close ball games. And for just the second time this year, they have won 2 in a row. Can they make noise in the Sun Belt Conference tournament? We'll have to wait and see. It's been a tough season for the Cajuns, but they keep on grinding it out and have all of a sudden won 2 in a row. These remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We continue our conversation with the head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skylar Meade, and we talk about how important those midweek ball games are to Sunbelt schools. Talking to Skylar Meade, head coach of the Troy Trojans Baseball Club, as we continue to preview the 2026 Sunbelt baseball season. All right, I do want to talk to you about those midweek ball games. And is there a difference between, say, before conference and during conference? Because as someone who was in South Louisiana, LSU is this dominating force, but they don't necessarily win all their midweek games because it doesn't matter, because the RPIs that they're playing on the weekend are usually top 10. So they'll have their chance. Whereas it may not be the case for the Sun Belt team. And those SEC teams, ACC teams, they may rest some guys, or look at it the other way, give some guys some opportunities during the week that they may not get on the weekend. So in case they need them somewhere, they're ready to go. How do you approach those midweek ball games? Because if you're playing Georgia twice, that's an outstanding opportunity to maybe, I don't know about the first time, I presume they're playing everybody the first time, but the second time, they may be resting guys or giving other guys a chance. Those are great opportunities for the Sun Belt to get those high RPI games. And like you said, they're both on the road.
First off, it's a great question. Having come from the SEC, spending 4 years in South Carolina prior to this, the reality of the situation is if you're in the SEC, and the number used to be 15 was your absolute to get in the tournament, but it appears that we've now decided that 12 and 13 is going to get you into the NCAA tournament. While you fight the fight that, co-aligns with your mission, right? I'm the head coach at Troy, so I don't give, 2 rips about what's going on in the SEC, but in the SEC, your mission, your voyage is about how do you get to 13 and above, right? Like, how do you get to 13?
You're talking about in-conference wins.
In conference, yes. Okay. Yeah. And so if you can get to that, it's all gravy. Your metrics are going to balance out because the way the numeric system is set up, you're going to be rewarded. So you have to strategize that way. You may give a guy a deal. And by the way, sometimes you may give a guy an opportunity on the mound, in the field, late defensive, whatever the case may be, and you may end up finding a piece that ends up being great for you in June. That is what happens in the SEC. Sure. Not that the effort is any different, because the SEC teams come to play, everybody comes to play now, right? But you are afforded the opportunity for an off day. We are not. Right. And so I do think that heightened sense of awareness, you hope that there's a time or two where a team doesn't have their, best foot forward. You do, and you have the, proper confidence and swagger and preparation to go into obviously difficult arenas, if you will, and win. And so, but for us, and I really mean this, and I don't say this, Dave, to be cliche, but like one thing for us, I think you always talk about how do you maximize, a team, a season, whatever. We really do focus one game at a time, and we're going to, shoot our shot in that given game. Obviously with strategery, I don't mean if we're down 11-1 in the ninth inning that we're going to go throw our closer because it suits him in the game. Like, obviously there is a little bit of, strategy in that, but the reality is we're going to give every game our best shot to win, because I think a lot of times a win leads to a win. And so, we have these opportunities and we'll figure out, we still have 16 days until the season. And as we all know, things evolve with the way you use your pitchers, the way, guys develop the confidence that they, go into each and every week with. And, we'll see how that works. Last year, I know early on, we had these 3 road SEC games at Auburn, at Miss State, and at Alabama. All great games. Lose, walk off to Auburn, beat Mississippi State, play a 3-1 game with Bama, had the, tying run at first base in the ninth. But we started a kid, Adam Felinsky, who's with the Twins, and he's throwing the ball 97 up to 99 miles an hour. And people thought we sandbagged him there. No, that's where he fit best for our team, going in those midweeks in which he went 4 or 5 and I think 6 innings. That's just the way it worked. I mean, we have dudes too.
Right.
So, but you're not going to also try to, like, quote unquote, sandbag a Sunday game against whomever you play early.
No.
And I think that's where, not that anyone does that, and it's not what you were asking, but it's like, you're going to still give your best shot to win that game that's at hand. And then when you go step into that potential, as you asked, SEC road environment, if you will, you're going to shoot the bullets that give you an opportunity to win those pivotal games.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that sometimes you have those bullpen games, and I think those are just as dangerous, because you're lucky if the guy faces 6 batters, right? You just one guy after another. They're coming from the right, they're coming from the left, they're coming from hard, they're coming from sauce, they're coming from the side. You can't. What do we do, coach? Well, make the adjustment during the at bat. You don't get more than one chance against that guy. So I always think those are dangerous, as we've seen in the past. On the opposite side of the RPI, and it happened last year a little bit in the Sun Belt, it's tough to go into any baseball as a baseball guy for a lot of years to sweep a team. Having said that, when you're playing lesser teams with bad RPIs, 1 loss hurts you more than 2 wins. That's a tough spot for a coach and a team. That's really where you do have to take it one at a time. But as somebody who is obviously well-versed in RPI, that's a thing as well. Because I was all over Southern Miss before they went on a 17-game winning streak. Sorry about that, coach, if that's my responsibility. Because they were a bowl team. They were in the 40s. And if they lost a game to the Cajuns, that would have been bad. If they lost a game to ULM, that would have been bad. But they didn't, so they went to the NCAA tournament and hosted. So how do you handle that? Because trying to go in and sweep, I mean, I know that's the goal. I mean, maybe it's the goal to win 2 out of 3 every time. But sometimes 2 out of 3 going to end up hurting you because that RPI for the other team is bad.
Well, there's no doubt, at our NCAA meetings this year in Columbus, one of the things they talked about, and obviously this would have been beneficial to us if we're, revising the past, is, being a team that wins every weekend, which we were the last team in the country to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, we didn't set that as a mission. And look, the reality is we have to do a better job when you're in the opportunity to sweep. We have to take advantage of that. And there's some ways and some things that you do have to do better, because I mean, Dave, you're right. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. Not that you go in and tell the team, "Hey, we have to sweep. Let's go." You
can't do that. You're going to lose Friday night. Yeah.
Correct. This game is so hard. Like you said in the very first thing, it's the most maniacal game because the lack of control in which we all have. We think we have control. I think I have control. I have none. Just the luck or unluck that can happen is crazy. But I think that it has to be an internal thing, and I don't mean this to it's players, coaches, support staff, everybody. But I think when players, and we can really see this on teams, when they have that internal focus to use the wins of a weekend, on a Friday and Saturday, to use it to propel them through an elite and a great Sunday, I think that's when you just see those difference-making teams. And you mentioned, Southern Miss going on some streaks in which they have, and I credit, obviously, Coach Ostrander's staff, Coach Barry before him, because I know they had gone on some of these streaks too. But you had a lot of players that were just accustomed to winning, and you could see it, just that confidence that there was zero way that they were going to lose. And, I'm proud that we have players that are at that level. And I think as a program goes through its growth from, good to great, great to elite, whatever your program's goals are. I think you see that, and it's almost like that unspoken part where you just know how to do it. It maybe doesn't even have to be spoken at times. And so, you go back and you revise history and look at numbers and things of that nature. And I think we have the guys, I think we have the competitive edge to hopefully do that many times this year and beyond. But man, it's hard sweeping teams. I mean, look, if I'm better than you in basketball and I can out physical you in football, I kind of beat you every time, with the exception of a fluke here and there. Right. I mean, the better team wins. Baseball sometimes isn't that way, based on who's on the mound, based on the weather, based on crazy circumstances, based on luck. And so sometimes you have to live with that and just say, how can I maximize, the opportunities that are in front of me?
As good as LSU was a few years ago, the left fielder saved the whole tournament. He's got the ball sinking on him and he's in the sun and he makes a spectacular catch, or else LSU loses, right? We don't get Tommy Tanks hitting a game-winning home run. None of that happens. And so those are the kind of things that's why we love baseball. I never really understood when my father said that's baseball. Now I get it.
You were correct.
Let's take one more time out. We'll come back and wrap up our conversation with the head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skylar Meade. We talk about the portal and how NIL and how Troy is going about using that, and who are some of the guys that he's expecting big years from in 2026. We'll do that right after I tell you about Indeed and the Everydayer Club. Hiring isn't just finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want to put someone who can help. I want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. And the Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Sunbelt your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast. You already live Sunbelt sports every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Sunbelt with no interruptions, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's wrap up our conversation with the head coach of the Troy Trojans, Skylar Meade. We talk about the portal, transfer portal, and who are some of the guys we can look forward to seeing doing big things for the Trojans in 2026. He's the head coach of the Troy Trojans. He's Skylar Meade, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. We're talking with Skylar Meade, head coach of the Troy Trojans, previewing the 2026 Sunbelt baseball season. How do you go about using the transfer portal and NIL?
Well, I mean, look, any program, you're gonna angle to the things that afford you success, and I would be lying to you if the transfer portal hasn't been incredibly good to us. If you asked me 3-4 years ago, how are we going to attack it? What would this look like? My answer would certainly be different. I know that sometimes changing your answer is not looked at positively in society, right? We kill politicians. We kill politicians for what they said 40 years ago.
I'm a big believer. I'm a big believer in life is about making the adjustments.
Right. And so I think evolving answers sometimes is, it's avoiding being stubborn, right? Stubborn gets you beat. And so I think it's interesting. We look back 3 years ago and our transfer junior college transfer and transfer portal class was 17th in the country. The next year it was really good. It was 31st. And this summer it was 18th, Now, while recruiting rankings don't reflect success on the field, right? Going out there and doing it's what earns that. What it tells you is we're able to get really good players. I think they believe in what we're doing. They believe in the winning. They believe in the fun that our culture provides. And I think, I think as a whole, and I know you asked the question a little bit, obviously, directed towards us and Troy. And I think what we provide is second to none. But I mean, this league provides a lot of great opportunities. There's so many great programs. There's so many great coaches. There's great atmospheres that I think are very inviting to that kid that is looking for a place where they can be a star, but they can still be known on a national stage. They can play high level baseball. I mean, you're in the top 12 percentile of college baseball with how, good our conference is. You are playing at the highest level. And so, and you have the chance to win, and you have the chance to win big, right? I mean, you have programs in here that win 35 or more every year. You have programs that are hosting regionals. You have a program last year that's in the, national championship. You have programs that have atmospheres that are second to none. You mentioned Louisiana. I've never been to Louisiana until 2023. What a great atmosphere. What a beautiful setup, right? You look at a place like Georgia Southern, which has had great players for a zillion years with Coach Hennon. The history of South Alabama, right? Old Dom comes in this league and they can be a nightmare. Like, you just go up and down the list. You look at the improvements. Look what Marshall and Arkansas State are doing with, Coach Bills and Coach Silva. Like, I could continue going down the list.
Yep.
It is an exciting league. And I think kids want to go to that. And some of the schools have shown an investment, from a rev share, NIL, whichever way you want to angle it, perspective. And when you have that, I mean, that's just a little bit of the nature of the beast today in college athletics. Once again, would people's answers 20 years ago been saying that a college athlete should have some money? Well, probably not. But at the same time, do we think it was good that college athletes were on TV and we would watch them every night in whatever sport, and they're scrapping to go buy peanut butter and bread at the store? Like, right. So sometimes it takes an extreme of both ways to find that sweet spot. And while maybe the cat, cat's out of the bag, or whatever the phrase you want to use is, on some athletes getting paid a lot of money, I think the one thing that everyone I think has to grasp, this is just my opinion, maybe people will kill me for it, but I think you have to understand just some of the ramifications that come with that, right? If coaches make a lot of money, they're open to criticism. That's what you signed up for. Like, if you don't like that, don't be a coach. You're going to get criticized. I jokingly say it. It's like political office. Like, nobody likes you. Like, everyone thinks you're an idiot, but then they look at you in the face when you do something good and say, hey, you did a great job. Like, you have to handle that. But as a player, when you do get money, make money, and it's a lot of times known you make money, I think you have to understand a little bit, we are still entertainment. And therefore, you're going to be, a little bit more criticized. And while I think sometimes the online criticism can be a little over the top, and a lot of times it's not even real, I think you almost have to understand that's the nature of the beast when money's in your pocket. And so I think we have to do a good job of teaching the kids that. I think we have to help them handle it. I'm not saying it's right, but listen, I coached at South Carolina. I understand you get critiqued, especially as a pitching coach, right? You lose 2-1, everyone says you're an idiot, right? Like, shoot, what about the games we lost 10-7? How dumb could I have been then? But you love that. You love that. And that's why I say that with tongue in cheek. South Carolina was the best time. What an amazing experience. What an amazing fan base, right? To have people care if you do good or bad at your job, that's the greatest reward, because if you're competitive, you want to be more good than bad. So therefore, what does that mean? It means you get more praise than you get slandered. And that's just the nature of being in entertainment, being in sport.
We're talking to Skylar Meade, head coach of the Troy Trojans baseball team, previewing the 2026 Sun Belt baseball season. A few more questions for Coach. All right, I think the Cajuns build their program around pitching because the ballpark is, big and may not carry all that well. You got a nice right field porch. Do you go out and seek left-handed hitters? Is that difficult to recruit? Because you just send them I know I'm going to date myself. You send them a postcard with how long it takes to get that ball out of there, and how do you go about putting a team together? Because you do have a home field advantage for those left-handed hitters.
We do like left-handed. I'm left-handed, so I think being left-handed is awesome. I'll make it.
Can you still hit one out? Can you hit them out?
Well, maybe at our park. I don't know, but I will tell you. Obviously we've been very left-handed dominant. We've had lineups that have had up to 8 left-handed hitters in there over the last couple of years. We had a guy on our team now, and his family, huge baseball people, very versed, followed Troy, and I always laugh at the table I'm sitting in a couple of years. He's been recruited a year ago. They were like, "Hey, he's a right-handed hitter. He's going to be a really good player for us." And they said, do you guys not like right-handed hitters? And you're like, and it seemed like such an outrageous question, but it was also like the most fair question ever. You're like, sure. I guess it does seem like it, but look, I think we have always liked left-handed hitters. Obviously, I think everyone likes what the swing looks like on lefties, but we've also been able to find kids that fit our system. And I think sometimes they do fit our park, but also I think sometimes it seems like they fit to the park, whereas we just get them because we think they're the best player.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of that chicken and the egg, which is first. But I also think, even just if you really speak to us, we've really emphasized increasing some of our right-handed hitting options, right-handed hitting power options, because I think that's maybe a piece that we need to improve upon, to be quite frank. And I think we've done that quite well, and I think we'll get to see that come to fruition this year. But you know how it is. You see that left-handed swing on video, everyone's going to like that swing at first. It's unfortunate. Right-handed hitter can have the most beautiful swing, but when you see it left-handed, you're like, "Oh, that thing is picturesque." Look, hey, my favorite player is Ken Griffey Jr., right? Sweeter. I love Manny Ramirez, and his swing might actually be aesthetically more pleasing, but when you see it on Griffey, you're like, "Oh, that one looks better." So, I think there's teams that play to their parks. We obviously mentioned Georgia. I think they've done a tremendous job of being able to be dominant at home and recruiting and coaching to that style. So I think you got to be good at it. You mentioned Coach Deggs. They've done an outstanding job of that over the years. It's been interesting to see kind of the evolution of Coastal a little bit. I know some of the stuff they've done, I feel like, and maybe it's just some weather pattern stuff, but their place has actually played a little bit bigger the last couple of years. I remember being over there in 24 and the wind was actually blowing in and stuff like that. And that may be just one of those randomized cyclical things that happens, but you'll see that at some parks too. Maybe not Coastal so much anymore, but you'll see people change aspects of the field and then it totally changes the stop. Vanderbilt brought all their fences in between 15 and 20 feet. So it's going to be interesting to see how the field plays, right? So you never know when those things happen, whether they're going to be good or bad, but you have to recruit a little bit to your home field because generally speaking, half of your games are going to be there and the other half are in randomized competition sites.
The obvious answer to that recruit was, for you to get to the next level, you have to hit to all fields, and we're going to help you hit with power to the opposite field. There's no Oppo Taco for a right-handed hitter. No one says Oppo Taco when you pull it, right? right. So
you're correct.
We're recruiting you for you to get better and get it to the next level. At least that would have been my answer. I don't know how true that is, but that's the answer. All right. We've gone a little long, but I do want to find out, because you guys got to replace some guys in that lineup. Who have you been impressed so far with still a couple of weeks to go before the season opens?
Well, anyone who's ever heard me talk about Blake Cavill, I think he's one of the best first basemen in this country. Obviously, he's not from this country, being Australian, but he's a special player. Led the country in walks last year. Is the leading guy. And I think 5 or 6. We put a graphic out yesterday, and I think he leads or is the top returner in like 5 or 6 categories in the Sun Belt. I mean, he's an elite player, a super kid, just loves playing ball, like the epitome of a ball player. So, Blake's going to be tremendous. Aaron Piasecki, Central Michigan transfer, all-time hitter, leading hitter in the Northwoods, is one of the best bat-the-ball guys in the country. Jimmy, who batted 4th for us as a freshman last year, is going to probably bat 3rd for us, and now will be a catcher. I mean, take it for what it's worth. Some mocks have him as a high top 15 pick in the 27 draft. So at least respected as an elite player. And we certainly get to think so. He hit 2 opposite field home runs this past weekend, to your point, as a big right-handed hitter. Also being 6'4", 228 pounds, hitting the ball 115 helps that too. But
sure.
But, Sean Darnell is just such a steady Eddie super kid. He was 296 homers last year for us at second base. Obviously, a lot of people remember he had a big grand slam on Sunday against South Alabama in the 9th that, I think at least kind of got a lot of traction, put him on the map. Cody Markham is a kid who I think is going to become a high-level pro in a couple of years, played 35 games as a true freshman for us. Steve Meyer, who, had a shoulder fix this summer. I mean, the kid hit 320, I think 24 steals, 8 doubles, 16 doubles, 8 homers. Had the big home run on the 3-0 green light at Miss State last year that, got a lot of traction. These are dynamic players. Jay Boroff, junior college transfer from here, Triple Crown. I think he won the Triple Crown in the state. As a guy who had 9 home runs this fall, right-handed hitting, power guy. So I really like the pieces that we have. And obviously there's some people that aren't even mentioned in this that are going to be really, good players. Dylan Cool, Nolan Book, Gavin Schrader hit multiple home runs for us last year. I mean, I could go down the list. I like our players. I like our depth. Obviously, we returned 63% of our production offensively. So 6 or 7 starters are going to be, at least have an opportunity to be returners in there. But I think we've added some pieces that, Nico Aspaqueta was the top, transfer guy with 20 home runs at Stony Brook. Like, I haven't even hit on him yet. Like, there's a lot of names that go around of guys that when they take advantage of their opportunity, I think they can be high level players and fit the mold of guys who came before them.
Few things there. How much credit do you take for letting a guy swing 3-0 and he hits a home run?
Well, when it works, right? You take all the credit after it worked. It's funny. I kid you not. This is the God's honest truth. We were sitting there and we struck out that Mississippi State game that you're referring to. We struck out 20 times. So it wasn't our finest offensive performance. Shane Lewis hit 2 homers. And obviously Steve hit the one in the 9th on the 3-0. And it's funny because in the 7th inning, we had just, struck out what felt like 12 times in a row. And Coach Wolgamon had been like, the only way we're going to score is hit a home run. It's the only way we're going to score. And I'm sitting there and, Steve went 3-0 and I didn't have the offensive watch. And a lot of times we just do stuff by looking at each other. And I looked and I was like, oh, I think he gave him the green light. And then he swung and hit it out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what a great call.
Awesome.
And I was standing with Coach Feynman and, we're like, I'm not sure if he did. Like, but it's our only chance. Cause if you go look at it, it was like 6 inches off the plate away. So it's just, it really was. I mean, it was crazy, but his hands were ready. And obviously he's an incredibly explosive athlete. But we certainly after the fact were like, oh, that was a great decision. But it goes to the randomness of baseball. If he pops up in the infield on that pitch,
right. Like, what are you doing? And then Mike Silva's got a couple international players. I asked him the same question. Did you get to make a home visit to Australia to recruit him?
Blake, I tell you what, Blake it's a great story. So he played in Northwest Florida. We had actually played them. Coach Martin and them would come up and play us in fall game, and he was really impressive. And so, we had him back on a visit and offered. And then he, at the time, he ended up actually choosing to go to Western Kentucky. Great program. They do a great job. And he went up there and was very successful. But he made the decision to go in the portal that next summer. And we just had such a great rapport. And he connected with us. And it was a done deal pretty quick. And I just think Blake's actually, obviously a kid from Australia, like what's the right fit in America for him. But Troy is just such a perfect blend. We let him be who he is. He's got just a vibrant personality. I know sometimes fan bases don't like him, but if they knew him for 3 seconds, they would fall in love with him. he's just a super kid. He just loves to play baseball. I mean, that kid's going to play baseball until he's 55. And he's going to still know if a strike's a strike and a ball's a ball. And he is pretty good. I need to, my wife would love to hear this, but I need to get out of the country at some point. But I do love staying in the United States. So I haven't outsourced myself too much thus far.
Right. Well, put just a recruiting trip. That's the way you get that in under someone else's budget. He is Skylar Meade. He's the head coach of the Troy Trojans baseball team. Again, a little bit longer. Really appreciate your time, Coach. Thank you so much. Best of luck this season. Hopefully we'll catch up sometime during the year. Absolutely. And I appreciate what you do with the Sun Belt, by the way. I know I follow all the things. It's a great league. We need people that know what's going on, promoting, and I very much appreciate what you do. And I know I speak for everybody in making that statement. So thank you. And hopefully I do get back on here with you as the year goes on. My pleasure. Thank you so much, Coach. Thank you.